Oh, thank Christ. Oh, God. Okay, we did do it. Okay. All right. Okay. Whew. What a ride. Okay, so first things first. The bottom center of the screen says that we've beaten 43 games in 2024 and 490 since we started doing this in 2020. Those numbers are wrong. We've now beaten 44 games in 2024 and 491 since we started doing this in 2020. Let's go. All right, let's talk about the ups and downs of Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. I haven't given that a lot of thought yet. I usually think about that more. All right, so let's just shoot from the hip and talk about the positives. The combat and action in this game is kind of dumb, but the best kind of dumb. Like, it's very button mashy, at least at first, but it is a blast. It reminds me very much of Devil May Cry, Bayonetta, those kinds of games when it comes to the action. It doesn't really look anything like that. It doesn't, but the way that the combat works kind of feels that way. It's very frenetic. It's very like, I'm not really even sure what I'm hitting, but it's working kind of a thing, you know? So, and it's very satisfying. The controls are just, it cuts out a lot of the bull crap. Like a lot of the stuff that you normally have to fucking like worry about with other games like traversal. It's just like, just hold down this button and push forward and you can jump over anything you want. Like, it cuts out a lot of the crap and just focuses just on the combat and really that's it. Just the combat, really. Traversal is a breeze. It doesn't put you through the paces on all that stuff, and so it just cuts right through the bullshit, and it is just a lot of really fun combat, and I loved that. I loved it. As far as a continuation of the Metal Gear universe, you know, I think most of the Metal Gear games, I'm at least trying to pay attention to the story. I'm not following all of it, but I'm at least trying. This game, I didn't really even feel compelled to do that. It seems like it just really, it's just a vehicle for the combat, really. I didn't really understand the story, and I got some of the broad strokes, I guess, but it didn't really matter. If I was 3/4 deep into Metal Gear Solid 4 and I didn't understand at all what was going on in the story, my satisfaction for the game, I think, would really suffer. I didn't get that impression with this game, that like me not really understanding what's going on sometimes was really having an effect on my enjoyment level, because the cutscenes, while long and confusing, weren't as long or confusing as most Metal Gear Solid games. So I think that was fine. I don't, well, I guess what I'm saying is I don't really care about the story. It was very pretty. You know, there was a lot of crazy action set pieces, even within the cutscenes, that were fun to watch, but I didn't really care about the story at all. I will say that some of the characters were really cool, like Senator Armstrong and well, mostly him, really. And Raiden's kind of an interesting character, but the story's like whatever. But that was okay for this particular kind of game. I was fine with that. I think this game is so much about the combat that I'm having trouble thinking of anything else really good to say, because there's not really a lot else. I don't care that much about the art direction. I don't care that much about the voice acting. I don't care that much about the story. I don't care that much about, what are the other things that I like, level design and, whatever. Like, it was just really all about the combat. Like, the levels were really straightforward. It's not like, oh, this game had really clever level design. It didn't. It was just like walk down a corridor, kill a bunch of other stuff, have a lot more fun with the combat, and then move on to the next room. And that was fine. The boss fights, I would say that they were great all the way through until the end, at which point it was amazing. The final boss fight in this game is one of the best boss fights. I mean, I don't want to say maybe best ever, but one of the best ever, but like, it's a top tier boss fight. It's a god tier boss fight. It was excellent. And I would normally be annoyed because it was a huge difficulty spike right at the end of the game, because the rest of the game is pretty easy. I died 17 or 18 times, 19 times during the whole game, and then I died 60 something, or almost 60 at the end. Normally I'd be pissed about that, because the game hasn't properly taught me how to beat it yet. or how to play it yet. And at the end, I was confused about how a lot of the mechanics worked still, because button mashing was good enough most of the time for most of the game. And then suddenly it was not at the end. And so I kind of had to learn how to play. But the boss was so good that it was fun to learn in that moment anyway. So that was really, really great. The final boss fight I will remember forever. It was awesome. As far as downsides go, there's a lot that this game is missing, but we've already talked about that. It's kind of missing by design, and it's kind of feels like it's supposed to be that way, like intricacy with the fucking level design and stuff like that. Who cares? I mean, the combat was so much fun it didn't really matter. It was a little bit short. I don't really care about that, but some people might. I will say this: I do have some criticism for this game. I don't think it did a great job of teaching you how to play. I don't think, like, there was a tutorial at the beginning, but it was very brief. Whatever I learned in that point either wasn't enough or I forgot it immediately. And it could be partially on me. I don't always pay the best attention, but like usually the game will kind of teach me even after the tutorial, like, don't forget, you can slash with the blade mode, whatever. Like, I had to look some things up because I didn't have any idea how some of the mechanics worked with blade mode and how the mostly combat stuff, really. It's like the parry I could understand mostly, but like beyond that, it was really hard to figure out on the fly how things worked, because the game didn't explain it very well. All the extra weapons that you had, the grenades, the bazookas, the rocket launcher, stuff like that, there were very specific times that like you had to use a rocket or a homing missile or something. But outside of that, I didn't find a lot of use for those things because it was very hard to tell whether they would be effective or not. Every once in a while, I'd pull a rocket launcher out during the middle of a fight and I'd use it and it just would suck. And so at a certain point, I don't think I threw a grenade the entire game. Because I never really needed it for the most of the game. And then by the end boss, which now that I'm thinking I could have probably used that, I had already forgotten they even existed because they were just so unnecessary for the whole game. So a couple of criticisms. There's that, and there's I think the game doesn't do a great job of really teaching you how to play. Oh, and what is with the freaking control scheme screen? I went to look at the controls at one point, and most of the buttons just aren't labeled. The only buttons that were labeled were the bumpers and triggers and the analog sticks. I need to know how all of the buttons work. I think they only labeled those because those are the ones that will change if you change the control shift. I need to know how all of the buttons work, please. I was looking it up because of X and Y, and X and Y wasn't labeled. That's the first time I've ever seen that in a video game. Anyway, that's a very simple thing. Very simple, small thing. That's not going to ruin a game. But how dumb. What a stupid, easily fixable issue. Unless there's some screen I'm not understanding, but if that's the case, then that's not very intuitive, is it? So, but I don't think so. I think it just wasn't there, which is so dumb. Anyway, but that's it. The 99% of this game was great. So I had a couple of little minor issues, but really, this game was phenomenal, and I really enjoyed it. It was a very short but sweet affair, kind of in the vein of something like Titanfall 2. You know, I really liked, that game was very compact. But what was in there was a lot of fun, and I really, really did like this game. I liked it. All right. That's it. We did it. Last order of business. We're just going to exit out because I can tell that we're done. Last order of business. Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. Thank you for existing. I'm glad we finally got to play you. But we are now going to delete you from our console and never play you again. Bye. Thank you. Appreciate ya.